So we are going to pick up where we left off yesterday, hopefully. Oh, I went to the homework yet. So we got to here. Which was on page 177. So, if I recall, we had found the root, which was 1. I found it over here on my graph. And just by looking at the graph, when it flattens out like that, or it's technically called changing concavity. If it changes concavity, what's the multiplicity supposed to be? 3. Yeah, if it changes concavity, does that little flattening out thing, then it's 3. If it does a bounce or it's tangent to the x-axis, then it's 2. And if it just goes through and doesn't change concavity, then it's 1. So this one should be 3. And we had just divided by it twice. Now we were going to do it the third time. Oops, I'll go far with that line. So you bring the negative 1 straight down, multiply, add, multiply, add, and it was 0 again. So we would do it again. So I'm going to divide 1 into negative 1 and negative 2. Bring the negative 1 straight down. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. That's negative 3. So that one doesn't work. But it did go in evenly 3 times. So it has a multiplicity of 3. And to describe the behavior, we would say that the graph is crossing the x-axis and changes concavity. Now, the flattening out is something that you can think, and if it was a free response question, I wouldn't probably count that off now. But you need to get in the habit of writing changing concavity, and on multiple choice questions, that's the way it's going to show up. So it's a good idea to get into that groove. Okay, so now we're going to consider how we might be able to locate the zeros numerically. So we have h of x, and it gives you the equation. And we have the picture over here. It's on your page as well. And we're going to find the values of all of these. So on these, you might want to grab a calculator. So if you don't have your own calculator, you should have one assigned by me. So grab the one that I assigned you. If you're not sure which one that is, come ask me. I can let you know.
That's 26, right?
Yep.
This one more.
You are 4. No, you're not. I lied. You're 16. Sorry. Okay, so h of negative 2, if we try to find it on the graph, it's going to go way off the graph because negative 2, and you see that it's pointing down. So let's just plug it in. H of negative 2, plug negative 2 in for x, and you can just plug that into your calculator. I'm fine with that. If we had to do it by hand, I'm confident that we could do this. Ooh. I'm not too confident in myself. -2 squared. Oh, it's supposed to be negative. Doesn't matter. Oh, there we go. What'd you guys get? Yes, it is -9. If you did it by hand, you would get -9 too. And let me see here, I showed how we do that by hand. We just, of course, replace the x's with -2. H of -1 we could plug in again, but we have it over here on the picture. What is it?
4.
Yeah, it's right here. -1 is at 4. So h of -1 is 4. Now we're going to find h of 0 and h of 2. H of 0 is easy to find. Looking at the graph, what is it? 3. H of 2 may take a little bit more work. Let me know what you got when you got it. Yes. It is 7. Okay. So, below this, now we're going to use that bit of information. It says from the graph, clearly, so if we look at the graph, clearly h of x has a 0 between -2 and 1. So between -2 and -1, there's a 0 there because it crosses the x-axis, right? Explain how finding the values over here of h of -2 and h of -1 numerically shows that there's a 0. So say you didn't know what the graph looked like, but I knew, but I knew that h of 2 was -9, and I knew that h of -1 was 4.
One's negative and one's positive.
Yeah. So one was up here, or was down here at a negative, and one was up here at a positive. So it has to, if it's continuous, it has to cross the x-axis. So that's basically what it's telling us, or asking us here. So, since h of -2 is less than 0, the graph is below the x-axis at x equals -2, and since h of -1 is greater than 0, the graph is above the x-axis at x equals -1. H of x is continuous, meaning I don't have like a piecewise function where I have a jump. I don't have a discontinuity, and we talked about that before. And goes from below to above